What's a cold open?
Cold open is to allow. I mean, it should start when people are sitting down.
Right.
So the camera's rolling, people are sitting down and talking about, how did you get here? How's your day? Blah blah blah. And so just have that natural conversation, and then it starts.
You just get in. There's no like setup. There's no like we're starting now. You just go live.
Nope, just jump straight into it.
Cool. I don't know if you know, but we're live already.
Nice.
Okay. So as tradition goes
Yes.
on the last few podcasts, Mr. 2.0, we are starting with We're Not Really Strangers. Who's going first?
It's up to the host.
Ooh.
Would you prefer to be asked a question first? Or?
Yeah, I'll go first. So
Let's
just so those who don't know, we have a deck of cards here called We're Not Really Strangers. They're really great conversation starters. 2.0, I feel like you are a little bit addicted to these at the moment.
I
but
love this game.
I think it's a good thing. So every now and then I'll just whip out the deck of cards, give it to someone, say pick one, and then it basically a conversation starts and it typically rolls from there. So there's 3 categories. Category 3 is about reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Category 2 is about perception. And category 1, is also about perception. Is that right?
I think you might have just taken it from 2.
Oh, yeah. I just probably took the wrong card. That was silly. Level 2 is about connection. Let me put that there. Okay, Al, I'm going to pick a card for you.
Yep.
I don't even know which order I'm going to pick in. Here we go. The question is, I'll ask a question.
Okay.
I'm a bit rusty with this, even though I did it less than a week ago. Do you think I'm usually early, on time, or late to events? Explain.
Okay, I'd have to ask, what kind of events are we talking about? Are you talking about gatherings with the family, with the missus, a band, or work?
Are you in a band?
I'm not in a band, not yet. Don't know how to play instruments, but that won't stop me.
Okay. So the question is, am I asking you, or are you asking me?
I would say the person who's pulling the card
Yeah.
is then asking the other person that question.
because this is about me.
Yes.
Do you think I'm usually early, on time, late to events?
Yeah. So you're asking for my opinion
Yeah,
on this.
I'm asking for your opinion.
I would say that Ed Haynes is a very punctual man. I don't think there's no worried about you being late for anything, but I think you know what your time is worth. So versus where there's something you go, I don't need to be super early for this event or this activity, and I can get more work done another way. I don't think that you're lazy or there's any rest point. I think you're just trying to plan out your schedule as best as possible. So when you get home at 7 o'clock, straight to bed.
Yeah.
Nothing else to do.
Pretty close. I would say that's a pretty accurate description of me. In half of it was accurate. I'd say half of it was inaccurate.
Oh, what was wrong?
I actually think I'm not that punctual. I feel like it's an area of my life that I feel like and it's not that I'm really late, but it's like I'm a couple minutes late.
Mm.
And but it depends though, because it's the things that I think are really important. The things that I know I have flexibility on, I will push the limits a bit on.
Yeah.
For example, our training time. As a group, we said we're going to start at 10:15. I just started to see that no one actually started at 10:15. So because of that, I started to push my arrival time back to more like 10:30.
Yep.
So 10:30 now is like more like my cutoff. That's because no one was actually starting out. Maybe people don't start because I'm late. Don't think so. But there are other things, if I'm meeting someone for the very first time or it's an important first meeting, I'll make sure I'm there early. Things like the podcast, I might be here like a couple minutes early or a couple minutes late.
Yep.
But it is okay. So last year, maybe 2 years ago, I wanted to get some feedback from my team, right? Because I'm often as the head of an organization, you're giving feedback to everyone else, and I found myself in a position where I hadn't been given much feedback on how effective I was being in my job and my responsibilities. So what I did was I enlisted in a 360 feedback company. So there's lots of different companies online that basically, it's an app-based website, or it's a website that has apps. Is that right? And basically you pick whoever you want within your organization. I sent it actually to everyone.
Okay.
So like 12, 13 people. And they then had to, basically score me 1 to 5, I think it was, in lots of different categories within my job. And then, there's a section for them to leave feedback. And I asked these guys, I said, guys, don't hold back. Like, I really want this feedback. Please give it to me.
Was it anonymous or?
It was anonymous, so I
Okay.
didn't know who was writing it. Except, obviously, in the box at the end where they had a chance to write something, I could almost always tell
Yeah.
who had written it. And the feedback was actually really good. Like, it was, very high ratings and everything. The one area that I had the lowest rating in was my punctuality.
Interesting.
And I'll remember that because, I saw that and I said, I can't disagree with that. Totally agree. And it's something I want to improve on. And I don't think I've actually made enough improvements on it yet. Still something that I like it when people are on time because it just shows that that's important.
It ties into this, your improvement in managerial, trying to be a better manager. So you want people to be on time, but you're like, 5 minutes. Who's gonna notice?
Yeah, and it's not a good mindset to have. Like, if you say you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, you should be there on time. Now, obviously sometimes life gets in the way, but yeah.
No,
I hold other people to those standards, so I should hold myself to those standards. So that's one of my work ons for 2024.
I mean, if we can go back to the discussion we've had ongoing about the change you wanted to make. So Ed said to us a while ago that you wanted to improve in being a manager. But it actually made me think back to younger you, how you got to this mentality of being so open to have a review and change. If someone's listening to this and they think, oh, I want to be like that, how do you get from the stage where you don't want to listen to anyone's feedback to where you're now completely open? Because I think that you are. There's nobody could say anything to you that would be taken the wrong way, or you would sort of turn around and snap at it. I think everything is up for review when it comes to you. So for advice for somebody, how do you get to be so open? So I know it's a difficult question.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a good question, though. It is a really good question. I've been asked that question a lot as well, but I just think there's so many different levels to it. I think I can only share my own story. I want to start by saying that I think, we always say here, like, feedback is a gift, and when you receive feedback, you should, because it's a gift, you should receive it like a present.
Yep.
So we should be very thankful for it. And actually, now the way they look at feedback and maybe even criticism, in a way as well, is that criticism and feedback is there to make you better. And so if you're a growth-minded individual that wants to be better, then, like, you got to take that on board. Now, not all criticism holds the same weight. Criticism, it depends, like, who it's coming from, when it's coming. It's like criticism, feedback is time sensitive. It's emotionally sensitive as well. So, we have to have our own filters as to, what is criticism, feedback that's worthwhile taking on board, and what is worthwhile disregarding. And so we'll go through that process. But I think that is, maybe I've just said there, the thing that changed the most for me was that I wanted to have a growth mindset. I realized, during my self-development phase of basically, and that when I say self-development phase, it was a phase in my life where I basically was radically looking at myself under a microscope and just picking every area that I wasn't happy with and doing something about it. And sometimes the doing something about it was, oh, actually, I've always been this person. I just got a little bit confused in the last 5-10 years, trying to be a people pleaser, hanging out with the wrong people. Actually, that's quite easy. Just go back to who you innately are. A lot of those things were actually like full transformations. Like, actually, this has always been me. This has always ended up getting me into shitty situations. It makes me feel upset, sad, depressed, anxious, fill in the blank. I don't want that feeling anymore. I've got to do something about it. And then how do you do that? You got to read the books. You got to seek professional help. You got to speak to friends people who inspire you, who've done the same, etc., etc. So the biggest thing for me was that I just arrived at a point on my self-help journey where I really wanted to embody this idea of having a growth mindset, right? So the contrary to the growth mindset basically says, nothing is fixed. You can always change, right? Obviously, you have to take that with a pinch of salt. Like, I can't change the fact that I'm a Eurasian male that was born in 1987 on November 15th. That's fixed, right? There's a lot of other things I can most definitely change. And then when I took a stock count of my life at that point in time, there were certain areas of my life that I had a growth mindset in. For example, like sport
Mm-hmm.
and you know, like the physical side, and there were lots of areas within, especially within business, relationships, communication, that I had a really fixed mindset on. So I was embodying the growth mindset in some aspects, but I had the fixed mindset in a lot. And what I was realizing was that this fixed mindset was getting in the way of my business growing. It was getting in the way because I couldn't build good relationships. I was pushing people away. The business wasn't developing because every great idea that was put my way was shut down and closed off. So the business never evolves. If you're not changing, you're not improving, right? So I think you just have to be someone who embodies that thought. So if you're someone right now who's saying, I wish I could handle feedback better, but you don't have, and because you currently don't, but you don't resonate with the idea of having a growth mindset, and you think you have, you know, that who you are is who you're always going to be, well, then change is never going to happen, no matter who tells you and you know, where you learn it from. And then there's so many other things. You know, I always just look at these values on the wall behind you. It's like they all link into that question. It's like you got to be honest, you got to be humble, you got to take ownership, which means that like you need to accept that you have responsibility for everything that happens in your life. And if you don't, then you're always gonna be blaming others and other people and other things. Growth mindset, obviously, vulnerability, like a huge part of being able to take feedback and improve yourself. As you got to be vulnerable, you got to be not be afraid to ask for help, to share when you're struggling. And essentially that's what you're doing when you're asking for feedback, hard feedback. You're admitting there's imperfections and things about you that aren't great, and you want to improve and you want to seek those areas. Like a lot of people, that's a really hard thing to do. And younger me, that was a really hard thing to do.
And do you think it's linked to age? So you as a younger doing sports, managing a team versus now managing a team of a business that you've started, do you think that there was a turning point in maturity just because you got older, or it was the experiences that taught you to have that change, to make that change?
Yeah, I think both.
Yeah.
I think when you look at, you know, most people as they age, just because they're just experiencing more life experience, right? And I feel that, you know, a lot of people have like big, maybe milestone events in their lives that create a lot of change. Like for a lot of people, having a child is like a massive shift up of priorities in their life. And or maybe like, you know, losing someone in your family, these big things that can happen. The pandemic, actually, you know, big life events that really make you question what's important and what's not.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always say, you know, change can come about in two ways. It can come about in, you know, intervention. Your life just like gets in the way and something crazy happens and you just got to, it changes you. Or there's inspiration, right? Which is that you on your own accord make the decision because of something or someone that you have seen, that you decide you want to have that change. And I would say almost all of my changes in myself have come about from a blend of both of those. A lot of it was intervention, a lot of it was inspiration. But yeah, you know, time is a very valuable thing, and the more time you can be on this earth, the more you're exposing yourself to, the more opportunity there is for change.
Yeah, I think you see more of the world, the more open you are to it. It's always like people who have such a fixed mindset on either a person, a group of people, you know, going to the true extreme. If you have sort of racial views, or if you have something there's a negative view to a group of people, how much of life are you denying yourself by just having that mindset?
Yeah.
And then it could be something that you said to me when I first started was, Alex, you use the word hate a lot. And I was like, do I? In my mind, the word like love and hate, they've kind of lost their meaning already. But I remember you saying that. I was like, oh yeah, I do. I just, without giving rhyme or reason, I just hate something. And I think I've stepped back from saying that. I think I've tried to control or try and have a bit of more thought process behind a review of something or a review of someone. I guess it ties into you not judging people as well, and that journey that you're on.
And that comes from empathy, right?
Yeah.
If you can really put yourself in someone's shoes and understand what they might be going through, then we become a lot less judgmental as a knock-on effect. But, you know, the only reason I had picked up on that in you was because I saw younger me every time you did that.
Oh God.
You know, but it was not a bad thing, but it was just like, it was something that I immediately saw, right? Because I've walked those shoes as well, and I could see that was somewhere, you know, I wasn't saying it was a bad thing, but it was just, oh, I noticed, you know, you hate a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, do you actually hate a lot of things? Or is it just a word that, you know, you like to use to describe things?
Yeah.
But it was, yeah.
No, I think it could tie into my you know, the argument that says that swearing is poor man's language, but I would always disagree with that.
Yeah,
I
I don't
think
really agree with that.
I suppose then if I was to actually say what language is limiting yourself, it is sort of love, hate, using simple words to describe a range of emotions or an opinion. But I wouldn't say, yeah, I never had those strong feelings. It was
Yeah.
just the easiest way to get an opinion out versus me boring people with a longer opinion.
Yeah.
But I guess it sort of comes back into when I first started at CrossFit, first started here with you guys, my gym ego was dreadful. And I remember one class you having me being like, Alex, listen, mate, love you to bits, but fucking stop it.
Yeah. It was a bench press. It was a bench
Yes.
press day. I remember that.
But
But you know what's super cool though, just going back to like, you know, your question, which is like, do you think that comes with age and experience, is that I'm in a really lucky situation here where, you know, I guess actually all of us have this opportunity in our own lives because we get to choose who we spend time with, right? We can make the decision as to who we want to work for, who we want to surround ourselves, who we want to surround ourselves with, and I basically get to make that decision. So as I have evolved on my journey and things have become more clear as to the things I value the most, the behaviors I want to embody, the choices I want to make. You know, I've always looked at the people around me and been like, okay, like who around me right now is gonna help me on that journey? Who are the like-minded people I want to surround myself to help me through this? And as you know, as a business owner, you have the power to make that change. You know, so if someone doesn't align, then of course I'm not saying business owner, if someone doesn't align with your values, fire them. You know, like I've always tried to bring that person on that journey or help them along the way in the hope that maybe we might arrive in the same destination, have a beautiful relationship and achieve lots of things together. But you know, if you look at this team, this team has evolved as I have evolved. Right. And now I look at the people I surround myself with every single day, like yourself. And it's like I'm sat in a room with very like-minded people who have the same values, believe in the same thing, they're getting after the same things. And that just accelerates all of our growths. Right. And so, but you can imagine, you know, the people who spend their whole lives with the same people in their same little neighborhood, in their same little town, wherever they're living, and they're not being exposed to anything else and anything different, you know, those people may never change.
Yeah.
And, you know, I see a lot of people, you know, on their deathbed who have the same thoughts, feelings, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they've had their entire lives, and those same things have been, you know, limiting them and causing them issues from the day they were born.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm very lucky, and it's something I think about a lot. You know, I'm always thinking about the people that are in my life and like, who do I want here, and who do I not? Who's it time to part ways with?
But again, I would say that's also age, because that's as you go through life, different people need to be in that time of your life versus people you had at 21. You don't necessarily want them at 31.
Yeah. You've also got to you got to be comfortable in your own skin as well.
Yeah.
You got to have the confidence to know that, you know, you love yourself no matter what. You know, that it's not, life can't be about pleasing other people all the time.
Yeah.
And when you can have that, you know, that self-love and that self-confidence, like, it becomes a lot easier to say goodbye and step away from people, knowing that you're going to be okay. A lot of us hold on to people and relationships for so long because of the fear that if they're not there anymore, we're not going to be able to navigate life without them, because they are.
What is that fear? That fear of losing somebody, even if you know it's a bad relationship. Certainly from my perspective, being in a bad relationship, but just not wanting to give it up. Even I know deep down that this isn't good for me, I just don't want to give it up. Is that addiction? Is that just fear for the future?
What do you think?
God, I mean, for my opinion,
what are some of the feelings that you like, the feelings and thoughts that you feel when you know a relationship isn't right, but what's stopping you from stepping away?
I would try and objectively look at that particular partner and say what's good, what's bad, almost writing on a piece of paper the pros and cons.
Very rationally.
I think I've tried
tough,
to be, yeah. I would say that in the early days of my relationship, I definitely was emotional driven, but now try to be a bit more rational and realizing how that's actually sort of backfiring on me now. Feeling like if you rationalize too much, something personal, like a relationship, you're almost starving it of the energy of romance and emotion to be able to keep it going. I think one of the advice I got from one of our members, Rita, shout out.
Yes, Rita.
She said that you've just got to go with the feeling. Don't rationalize it. You're never going to reach the next level or experience something that could help you down the line if you're already trying to give up, within the first 5 days. So I think that kind of that spoke to me.
Yeah.
Somebody who's being like, I need this to be this way so it could work this way so I can future-proof it. And realizing, actually, this is the wrong mindset to be going into a relationship with somebody.
On that, I think I use both as tools. Sometimes it's like gut feeling. A lot of times I think your gut feeling is the right feeling, but there's been a lot of times where I've actually gone against my gut and gone with maybe the more rational thing that tells me this could be something worth pursuing. You might not feel it right now.
Yeah.
Like, let's risk it. Let's try it. And then it's paid off. And it's paid off. There's been many times a rational thought, the rational path, and ignoring the gut has not paid off as well. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's tough. But I think, again, I think I've said this on the podcast once. I read it, Barack Obama's, the way that he makes decisions. When you're president of the United States and basically someone says, hey, you've got to choose between A and B. How do you make that choice?
Yep.
The entire world is waiting on your call. And for him, it was just probability, right? So if option A, there was a 51% chance of success, and option B, there's a 49% chance, I'll take option A every time. And I'm not taking option A because it's guaranteed success. I'm taking option A because the odds are higher.
Yeah.
And so, I like the way that he looks at that, just to simplify hard, big decisions. I think about that with business sometimes as well now. It's like, well, I don't really know if either of these are going to be successful. Neither is guaranteed. Where's the probability, work in my favor? Yeah.
But I'd say that is more in line with a business mindset rather than a relationship. I don't think you can necessarily go in with
there could be like
percentages to a relation.
There could be like rational parts of a relationship, right?
Give me that rational part then.
Well, you've got like common interests. Like you both want to be in the same country. You both want to have children, or you don't. You both neither, or you want different. You have different opinions on children as a contrary thought. Like age. Okay, biologically, I want to have children. You're at this age. Odds are more likely that we're going to have children. I guess like more rational things like that can stack up, and then there could be this obviously this. You can just have a gut feeling that's just not, after all of that, someone could stock up to be perfect, and it's just not the right person.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about why, I'm thinking about what are the main reasons why I didn't end relationships. And I'm not just talking about intimate relationships, but friendships, like team members, staff members. It was always about the fear of hurting someone. So really boils down to people pleasing again, right? Yep. I'm more worried about how they're going to feel versus like how I'm feeling in a relationship. So worried about hurting someone, and then like worried about not being liked. That's so that if I end it with this person's no longer like me, and oh my god, how am I going to live if they don't like me? I want everyone to like me. So I'd say those are the two most crippling thoughts that kept me in relationships for too long.
I agree. I'm the same as well. People pleaser to try and you putting your emotions aside and just saying, no, I want this other person to feel good.
Yeah.
And if that means me being upset or me being angry or being in a situation I don't want to be, we just accept
I'll suck it up. Yeah. Because it's better for me to hurt than them.
Exactly. And is that the selfless act of trying to protect people if you love that person or if they're a good mate and you're just trying to sort of take the burden?
Well, I guess the way that I would look at it would be like, well, I'm actually not serving either of us. Right. Well, I'm keeping us both in a relationship that isn't necessarily serving either of us. And I'm just pushing back the inevitable that's going to happen anyway. And the space that you live in until that inevitable happens is not a nice space, right? When a relationship's not right, there's fighting, arguing, disagreements, there's distancing, there's and so it's just like you just sometimes just got to rip that Band-Aid off. I mean, mate, I talk about this like I'm an expert, but I still find it very hard, you know, and there's not many relationships that I have, if any, for a really long time that I've wanted to end in my
Yeah.
life. But, you know, you still get those hunches of people that, you know, you surround yourself with. You think, you know, is this person really
You about to say somebody's name then.
contributing? No, I don't have a name, but is this person really contributing, you know,
Yeah.
to my life? Oh, it's tough.
It is a tough one. And I think it, again, with this being such a sociable job as well,
Mm.
I think you surround yourself with so many different characters, so many different mindsets. You're going to be shooting yourself in the foot if you don't go in with an open mindset, or at least a mind that allows you to get yourself an opinion later down the line. So I have a lot of respect for that, the way that you are not judging people, because I know I still judge the hell out of people.
Yeah.
Even if I'm on the street, I'm just like, oh, what's he wearing over there?
I mean, again, that's been my biggest work on for 2023 was I found that I was still judging people. And I got to that position because there was a few times where my judgment was wrong. You know, I would create a judgment on someone without really knowing the situation or knowing the person. Then I don't know, find out more about the person or the situation, and I'd look back on my initial judgment. And sometimes that initial judgment was just kept to myself. I would just say it in my head. Sometimes I'd be sharing that with others. And I'd basically be like, wow, I was so wrong with that. And I hated that. And especially like bringing other people into it. You know, if I'm sharing a judgment on someone before I really know who they are and what their story is, then that's now 2 people. And, you know, the 10 people that they know, like, that wasn't fair.
Yeah.
That wasn't right. So, yeah, I guess it links into, you know, my whole mantra of API, which is always assume positive intent.
Yep.
And then couple that with, you know, the more empathetic I become in life, you know, which is really trying to put myself in the person's shoes, the less judgmental I become, because, you know, rarely do human beings make bad decisions or a nasty, mean assholes fill in the blank for no particular reason because they're a nasty person. There's always like, we've all been through so much, right? We all have our own traumas. We all have our history, our stories, weight that we carry around with us for our entire lives. And it's like, you don't know what that person might be carrying, right? Because I know that I carry and have carried so much of it, and that has manifested itself into the way that I behave, act, communicate, speak to other people. And you know, when someone calls you out on it, your first response is, but you know, this is what I'm going through. This is why I said it. But, you know, if we could just all do a bit more of that. It's tough. It means you got to be really patient sometimes, right? Sometimes it's a lot easier to judge because you can judge and then close that box and be like, dealt with it.
Yep.
But when you don't judge and you know, give that person positive intent, that box stays very open. And it's going to be, you know, because you may see someone in the street or see something in passing. And truth be told, you're never going to find out what that person's going through. And so that means, you know, that might be something that might, you know, eat away at you for a really, really long time, but you just got to be okay with it. And again, that's where assuming positive intent, assume the better. It's just a much better place for me to live in.
At the same time, it's a very vulnerable position to put yourself in, to leave that door open, to give them the opportunity to prove their good intent towards you. Otherwise, you're sort of just waiting for a stab in the back. Essentially, worst case scenario, you're giving somebody this opportunity. Maybe you trust them with a project. Maybe you recommend them to one of your mates to do something and it backfires on you.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go with your gut? Why did you hurt your friends? Why do you hurt the business? Not saying that that's
no, but it's true.
I
think that's a counter argument that a lot of people bring to the table when it comes to assuming positive intent. They'll say, well, I've done that before and I've been really hurt. And, you know, I've been walked all over multiple times every time I do that. And yeah, that sucks. That's gonna make the ability to assume positive intent a lot harder because you have an undeniable stack of evidence that says that assuming positive intent ends up badly for you.
Yeah.
Right. I just know that. But then with that, I think as human beings, we are so wired to picking up on the bad that we're not very good at picking up on the good.
Yeah.
Right. When we walk in the wild as ancestors and we're foraging for food, we care more about the berry that's going to kill us versus the berry that tastes really nice. And so naturally, like, we're really good at picking up on all the bad things in our lives and highlighting and talking about them and, you know, shining a big shiny light on them, and we're not very good at celebrating the wins and spotting the good things that happen, I think. And that's another thing that I've tried to work much harder on every aspect of life, is that when good things happen, like, make sure I recognize and acknowledge them. And again, that's why I love my journal so much, the Today Well Spent. Talk about it all the time, but the fact they asked me for 3 great things that happened today every day, it forces me to think, what were 3 really good things that happened today? And, you know, but by writing that down every night, that's just constantly running in my head at the end of every day before I even journal, what were the great things that happened today? And then I realized how many times, bringing this back to assuming positive intent, how many times I do assume positive intent and it comes out to be the right thing to do, massively outweighs the times where it backfires. But it's like, I think about this a lot. So sorry to keep running this tangent.
Please keep going.
But you know, when you don't assume positive intent, right, and you assume that this person is just nasty, out to get you, wants to stab you in the back, hates you, you know, whatever, fill in the blank. It's just a tough place to live in, because you just always got that negativity hanging around, and I just don't want to put myself through that. Really. And I remember, you know, when I first started thinking about this kind of stuff, and, you know, the natural want was to think badly and assume the worst. But it's like, I'm the one that has to suffer by doing that.
Yep.
They don't give a shit. They're just getting on with their day and cracking on with life, you know? So if I can just wrap my head around this and, you know, think a bit more positively, and, you know, if I do get stitched up and it backfires, so be it. There's no point me sitting here wondering every day if that's going to happen, because I'm just suffering because of it. Why do I want to put myself through it? If it happens, I'll deal with it when it happens. Yeah. You know, and I'll figure it out, and I'll move on.
Yeah. I think that's the advice, isn't it? It's just stop, not overthinking, but don't protect yourself from a life lesson. Yeah. Don't take away that opportunity to have an experience, even if it may backfire badly. I mean, it could be a person, could be an event. Go with it. Just put yourself out there.
And I mean, you know, we suffer so much more in imagination than we do in real life, right? So 99% of the time when we're creating these stories in our head about what this person's thinking or what they're feeling, when you actually find out what they're thinking and feeling, it's never as bad as the things you imagined, right? And most of the time you're like, oh, is that it?
Yep.
Oh, wow. And so, you know, again, and I experienced that as well. And so in those scenarios, if it's someone I know, I just want to have a conversation about it ASAP. Yeah. I can't go to bed that night and leave that thing unspoken, right? And just pretend it doesn't exist. Yep. I can't bury things under a rug and pretend they're not there. I just don't have that ability to do that. Some people are really good at it. Right, for me, especially when it comes to like people and feelings, that shit eats away at me.
Yeah.
And so I need to get on the phone like now, and I'd like to talk about it and find out how I can create some closure on this, so I can get some sleep tonight and move on.
No, I agree with that. I don't have that. I want to fix it ASAP, but I'm not gonna call anybody. It's gonna be I gotta wait for the right moment, the right time. Yeah. I agree with you. Like, you lose sleep. You know, stress is like cancer. You just in your own head thinking about the worst case scenario. I'm very much that. Everything I look at life, I will look at the worst case scenario to what it could be and be pleasantly surprised by the best. And I think I'm sort of more in the middle now with my health journey. But I would still say that, it's I agree with you when you're at home and you're just rerunning it over and over again in your head. And it seems to somehow just be getting worse and worse. You seem to be finding more things to get upset or angry or worried about. And things that could have just been so easily fixed, so easily resolved. It just had one conversation.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, I always say it, don't be afraid of the hard conversation. Yeah. You know, and as younger me, again, reflecting back on younger me, I was always afraid of the hard conversation. Again, I would create the image in my head that the conversation was going to go so badly and it was going to go so terribly that it's just better to not have it. Yep. It's better for me to exist in this place of like perpetual fear, anger, upset, whatever, sadness, than it would be to just have it. And so I would avoid it like the plague. Oh God, it's horrible. And then you know how much tension then builds up with that person, and it's just, you never have a good engagement ever again.
Yep.
And so now it's like, I want to have those conversations ASAP, like before the day ends. If there's friction in my day, whatever it was, I'm going to message that person, ask them to jump on a call, and let's just like talk it out.
Yep.
And if that means bedtime goes back an hour later, so be it. That's better.
8 p.m.
Yeah, that's better than not having it and then, not sleeping at all. So yeah, like, never be afraid of the hard conversations. Have the hard conversations sooner rather than later. It's just always been something that's...
So to circle back to we're not really strangers, Ed needs to have a serious conversation about my tardiness.
This is all about... This is what today's podcast is just going to be 2 cards withdrawn from We're Not Really Strangers.
That's it.
And then we're finishing there.
But we do have a subject we need to talk about. What's the theme or what?
Well, hang on, mate. You haven't...
Oh, sure. You got to do my question. Yeah.
You haven't pulled your card yet. That's what I mean. This is probably going to end up being the whole podcast. Okay.
I'm going to give you 2. You gave me 1 before.
I gave you 1.
You
so
gave me
I'm
1?
about perception.
We're going to go for a 2. Have you changed your mind about anything recently? I'm going to give you a challenge. I want a week. Anything in the week.
Hang on, but this is you asking me a question again. Didn't you just... The last question you just asked me anyway about... Oh, no, it was your thoughts about me
Correct,
and my time.
yeah.
Okay.
So you're
cool.
doing the chit chat now.
Yeah, okay. So question again, please.
Have you changed anything in your mind recently? And I'm going to give you the challenge. I'd like it in the last week or last month. I don't want something that's been long.
Oh, the one thing that's like always jump into my mind, but I don't know if I've changed my mind on it yet, is exactly what I spoke to Karan about last week on the podcast, which is like this wrestling match I'm constantly having about like working hard and not working too hard.
Okay.
And
so it's just still playing on your mind then?
For sure.
Okay.
It's been playing on my mind for a long time. And it's like this week, so we've just had Chinese New Year, so we had a bit of quiet time and had the afternoons to just, be with loved ones and just chill out and do a bit of reflecting and thinking. And, was really thinking about like my career, my job, and like how fucking good it is. I genuinely I'm so lucky to be able to do this. And there really isn't a thing that I do in a day that I don't really love. It doesn't mean it's not hard. And it doesn't mean it's not draining. It doesn't mean that sometimes I want more rest days. But, actually my life looks, it looks hard Monday to Friday, like long days. Most days are really like 12 hours from start to finish. There's nothing I'm doing in that 12 hours that's not fulfilling and doesn't align with my purpose of trying to help other people.
Can I side tangent? I was listening to a quote from, oh God, it's just mine's in my mind. The gentleman space.
Elon Musk.
Not Elon Musk. He's a astrophysicist. He's
Neil
comedian. He's on lots of podcasts. Anyway,
I was trying to get a laugh at you there.
The quote was, if you do a job, so pick something that you would do for free and make that your job.
That's so weird you just said that.
You'll always be happy.
It's so weird that you just said that because I just listened to a podcast on the Founders podcast.
Okay.
And the Founders podcast, I just got introduced to it. Basically, this guy who just researches the hell out of very successful people.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes solo on a mic and he just like tells their whole story, which is what I love, right? I love hearing stories and I love speaking to people about stories, connecting the dots. Like what's happened in your life that's gotten you to where you are today? I think that's honestly one of the biggest, and one of the things I just had an epiphany on this weekend was that was actually the thing that really brought me to the podcast was like, I love speaking to people and hearing about their stories, and every single person on this planet has an interesting story.
Yep.
Like you don't have to be successful to have an interesting story.
Absolutely.
And you can learn something from everyone. Every time I hear someone's life story, like I level up a little bit. There's something that I take away that upgrades me as a person. So I'm like, this is free education.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to that was that Oprah Winfrey in that episode, Oprah Winfrey, basically her whole story was that, she was a news anchor at a really young age, at the 10 o'clock show, making pretty decent money. And all her friends around her were like, you are crushing it. Like, you've reached a pinnacle. You're a TV star, like amazing. And she was just like, this doesn't feel right. Like I'm not meant to be a TV anchor. I'm meant to be sitting down as a talk show host, like listening to people's stories and helping empower them in their lives. And I was like, you can't, there's no way you can do that. You know, there's other guy, he's already doing it, whoever he was, like he's monopolized the market. You can't enter that. And she was like, nope, that's just 100% what I should be doing. And she basically said, you know, if you can find the job that you would do for free, then you found the best job of your life.
Yeah.
And
Ed, can you do CrossFit for free?
I mean, so I obviously thought about that question. You know, could I do this for free? And truth be told, there's lots of things that I've done in the past to maybe get me to where I am today, which I have done for free.
Yeah.
Coach people for free, run classes for free, do talks for free. And I've never done it because I want to get something back in return. It's because, I love doing this anyway. Yeah, I'm going to go do it. I think even just saw Taylor Swift. She does, you know, so people will often message Taylor Swift on Instagram and say, can you sing at my wedding? And she goes and does it. Doesn't get paid for it. Now, okay, there could be a publicity thing. But still, right? It's like time is precious. She could be getting 5 million, maybe more. I don't know. I just pulled that number out of thin air to do a private performance. She goes and does it.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty damn cool. And I think honestly, that's one of the things that makes people love Taylor Swift so much is that like there's this human side. The hater.
No. I'm just thinking about the internet and how many Swifties are out there.
Yeah.
And if you say one bad thing, after us.
Well, no, I admire that about her. But anyway, there is a lot of things I have done for free, but you know, the question, I think the question is a bit misconstrued because it's not that you should do your job for free, but it's like if this is something that you love so much that you can do it knowing that it's not about the paycheck, then you probably found the right job. And I would say, I've got that.
Do you? Okay, so let me change the question then.
Yeah.
Do you think there is an element, or there's one factor of your job? So that could be programming, could be coaching, doing group classes, doing the podcasts, or just being sort of a representative. Is there any facet that you would say, I'll single that one out and that's the one I just want to do?
Yeah. Think about that a lot. I think because I do quite a lot of different things. You know, I essentially work with businesses in the affiliate program to make, you know, managers, leaders, and businesses like elevate. I'm involved in the individual coaching course, which is all about educating coaches and how to be world-class coaches. And then I coach loads of athletes on how to be great athletes. And then I guess like I'm a leader as well. You know, I'm trying to level up as a manager right now and a business owner. But I think, I don't know, something I also thought about just this weekend is like, I get a bit uncomfortable when I'm comfortable.
Explain.
So when I'm not doing something that's really challenging me and it becomes like easy and unstimulating, I feel uncomfortable when I'm doing that. And I think that's actually been something that's been a part of me like my entire life, you know, reflecting back. But basically, comfort creates discomfort for me, which is why I think I keep on leaning towards doing really challenging things, which then sometimes can feel very overwhelming, right? Because you're constantly looking to do hard things and level yourself up. And doing hard things is a lot more mentally stimulating, physically challenging than doing easy things. And so when you take on all these things, I think that's where you can, you know, be burning the candles at both ends a little bit. But I would say when I look at my job, you know, right now I'm in a position where, you know, I'm 36, you know, I'm getting married in 2 days.
Let's go.
You know, we would love to have children in our lives one day. And so I'm thinking about that. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what do I want my life to look like when I do have children? Like, I don't want to be an absent father. I want to be a part of their lives as much as possible. But I'm nowhere near finished with this. You know, this is 100% something that gets me jumping out of bed every single morning. You know, Coastal Fitness and the Process program, and I've got a million ideas and dreams of things that I want us to all achieve. So like, it's not sacking one and focusing on the other, but for sure, like I want to have a bit more time in my day to be able to spend with my child and with my wife. So that has then forced me, it's really one of the motivating things which made me look at how I can be a better manager. It's like, well, if I can manage people better and my team can manage each other better, then I'm scaling myself, right? Because like we're all doing the job together. It's not becoming reliant on one person. I'm not saying it has been reliant on one person, but I think I've probably taken on a bit too much of that responsibility in the past by not just by not managing that effectively. So that was one of the big, motivating factors for why we're moving with this new system here and creating lots more managers and having more frequent touch points. But then, yeah, the other part to that is, where was I going with it? In terms of jobs, what am I doing? It's not.
If I go back to the original question, is there one facet of this job that you could say, yep, I'm just going to do that?
Yeah.
So just do the podcast. Yeah. Nothing else. Don't want to do programming. Don't want to do group classes. Because you're not doing group classes anymore.
No.
Unless there's a reason that you may need to take a class.
Yeah.
You have a few PTs.
Yeah.
I know you've spoken in the past that you have a good relationship with them.
Yeah. Quite a few people online.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess where I was going with that was that, I guess as a part of me feels that if I went with just one thing, would I get too comfortable with it? And that's why I kind of keep lots of things. I also know that for something to grow, you can't have someone who's doing all of it.
Yep.
Right. So I'm also very aware of that. So really, okay, now I know where I was going with my tangent was that I'm constantly looking at the things I do every day with my job, and I'm asking myself the question, could someone else be doing this?
Yep.
Like, does this really need me right now to be doing this? And so, there's a lot of things actually just in this year, in the last month and a bit that I have, handed over to someone, given them the skills, or I'm currently mentoring or coaching them through that task to be able to allow them to do whatever the thing that I want to hand over is. But truth be told, like, I actually really love all of them. I think one that takes like a lot of mental energy is probably like leading this organization.
Yep.
Like building relationships constantly. But so that's probably one area where I think, maybe there's probably someone who's a lot better at this than I am. Maybe I need to bring in like a CEO or someone who can really like steer the direction of the business.
Yeah.
And that can allow me to then just focus on the little tasks that I do really well, that I think I do really well.
Yep.
But then sometimes I think maybe I should be that CEO and I shouldn't be doing all these other little things, and I should be steering the direction of the ship. So, I mean, the only way I can answer that is that currently I love all the jobs that I'm doing, but I think naturally as time goes on, I'll have to step away from certain areas. But yeah, it is a question I think about a lot. And it's annoying. I wish there was things I did I hated, because that'd be really easy for me to part ways with. But it's like I really love every aspect of it, and I think I have a skill set in all of them in my own unique way.
You've given yourself this. You've built an empire for yourself on your terms, as evident to the wall and the philosophy. And I think it's hard to it's molded over time, but it's molded with you. You've changed over time. When you started this company 15 years ago,
yeah.
You're a different person, but so was the company and where it's now gone to. One thing I want to say, what was interesting to me is that you said about bringing somebody else in to do that job because they'll be better than you. And I always find myself saying that to myself, saying, oh, don't apply for that. Don't do that, because there's always going to be somebody better than you who, why bother? But then you quickly did a U-turn and went, oh, no, it just means that I can concentrate on other things, or I should. Why don't I learn it? Why don't I do that area? Do you think that you enjoy keeping yourself busy because you just consistently want to learn, that you want to keep improving? Or if I said to you, Ed, look, we're just going to have you concentrate on the podcast. Obviously, I have no say whatsoever. But if you were to just concentrate on the podcast, put all your time and energy towards it, do you feel like you still wouldn't have the same feeling? That negative feeling would come back?
What, as in like being too comfortable with it?
Yeah. I feel like if you
not
gave
really.
yourself...
No, I think if I went all on the podcast, we could do some really amazing things. I think if anyone went all in on the podcast, we could do some amazing things. But I also think that's kind of the nature of a bit of a small business, right? Is that as a small business grows, you have a few people that take on many roles and responsibilities. And then as the business grows, And when we say growth, like we're talking about reach, we're talking about number of employees, we're talking about profitability. As it grows, you're able to then take away some of those tasks from each person and then make your tasks become much more specialized, right? So you have, a video guy and a photography guy, which is kind of like where we're moving towards. Like you have been Mr. Jack of all trades for the last year, right?
Yep.
You're doing podcasts, you're doing videos, you're doing photographs, you're doing edit, like you're doing everything. But we know, because we've talked about it, where your real passion lies, which is like the video side of things is where Al's fire gets lit. And that's, if we can find a way to have him just do that, then not only is he going to be motivated, fulfilled, really happy in his job, but the quality that he's going to create, because he's going all in one thing, is going to be exponentially higher.
Yep.
But as a small business, you can't do that at the start because you don't have the resources to be able to afford it. But now that we're growing, we're going to be able to actually do that. We've got, Mark coming in who's loves photography. He can handle the photography side of things. And so that's kind of like a real natural evolution of it. And when I look at my job, it may look like I do a lot right now, but holy shit, if you think about what I did 15 years ago when I sat down and started Coastal Fitness, I was designing the website, I was responding to all the emails, I was answering the calls, I was designing the uniform, I had a manual receipt book, I was doing all the accounting. Like there literally wasn't a thing that I wasn't doing.
Yeah.
And then I did a lot of those things for a really long time until it just got to the point where I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. or like I'm really bad at this, or I really dislike this.
Yep.
It's like there's someone else who loves this and is much better than me at it. I got to give that to that person. So, I'm just continuing to do that. Definitely, I think as an owner, I held on to some things a little bit too long. They could have been handed over earlier. But again, the nature of a small business is that you basically, like, everyone has to take on a lot until you're bursting at the seams, and then boom, you bring on that next team member, and then everyone's got a bit more breathing space. But what's going to happen? You then burst at the seams again, and then you just naturally go through these stages, because when you're probably thinking, well, you maybe not, but I'm going to become videographer guy, I'm going to have way more time, I'm going to be able to execute. But you're not. You're just going to fill up all that time with being a videographer, because you're those words on the wall. Like, you're hungry for growth, you want to develop yourself, you want to contribute. And that's the nature of having a business that believes in like hard work, pushing ourselves, achieving lots of amazing things, is that we all have that mindset, which means that we're all going to be experiencing these things probably for a really, really long time. And it's like, I even know that later in life, I know that I'm going to fill up my time with something new.
It's called a kid.
But then it might be like gardening or like looking after a horse. Like, I just know that if the business isn't there, I'll be doing other shit, because it's just a part of who I am. Maybe not, maybe I'll change. But the way I think about it now is that I feel like that's going to be a big part of me.
Yeah, I think there's the difference between a sit-down dad and a dad that's always moving. I'm thinking you're not going to be a sit-down dad. No. You're going to be like, right, we're going down to the park. We're going to go and throw a ball around. I mean, there's nothing inherently bad from what you've just said. I would say that not everybody can be on that level. Some people do just find comfort and solitude in not solitude, but they find that peace in doing that one thing.
Yeah.
And for people that are looking at you right now or hearing you right now and going, this guy sounds like he's going to burn himself out, and he's been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah.
In the back of your car, going from gym to gym, doing these 1PTs. How the hell how have you not burnt out after doing 15 years of consistently filling your schedule?
Well, I mean, put it this way, before I got this job and I would work summers, in offices, being a delivery man, I was a preschool teacher. I was working 1/10 of the amount of time that I was now. So I'd be working maybe like a half day.
Yep.
And I felt burnt out.
Yeah.
And I think it just goes to show, like, what you're doing and how you're doing it matters. It's not just about workload, right? But it's like, if you're filling your plate with things that you actually really love doing and bring you a lot of fulfillment, enjoyment, challenge, a good blend of all of them, then you can just do it. Because like we said, it's like, it doesn't feel like work. And I'm like, I really finish every day and I'm like, I can't believe this is my job. This is so damn cool that I get to do this.
Yeah.
But I think if you're doing something that doesn't light you up and doesn't fulfill you, and like the fact that I'd sit in an office and I'd stare at the clock.
Yep.
And an hour would go by and I'd be like, oh, I just want to like I want to be anywhere else but here right now. So I was burnt out by doing
Yeah.
nothing. Whereas now, it's just don't experience that.
So it's the cheesiness of do what you love and you'll never be tired.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's such an easy thing to say,
Yeah.
isn't it? I'm lucky. I would just say that I'm lucky that when I started, I just knew what I wanted. Most people finish university, finish school, wherever you are, wherever you finish your education, and it's time to work, and have no idea what they want to do.
Yeah.
I would say that's the vast majority of the world, right? They might have a hunch, they might know what they don't want to do. Like I knew at 20 years old, like I'm going to be coaching people.
Yep.
I'm going to be a personal trainer and I cannot wait. And like day one was like the greatest day ever. I'm like, when my first client called me and I was about to coach my first ever client, I was like, this is my dream come true.
Are you sure? I haven't heard this story before.
No?
The first day.
My first client?
Yeah. Sorry. What the official day for Coastal? What was the first day?
Well, so I spent basically, I was lucky to have a good friend of mine who'd also, was in my year group at school. He'd got into web development.
Right.
He was living in Canada. But I was like, okay, I need a website. So I spent the first week or two, didn't take long, just getting everything I needed to run a business. So I basically bought receipt books. I had like literally stacks of receipt books. So whenever someone would pay for a session or anything, I would hand write out the receipt, tear it off. You get one copy, I'll file away one copy.
Yep.
I had an accounting book. So like now we have these ridiculous spreadsheets, P&Ls, cash flow statements. I literally had just this ledger that would just be like what I spent, how much money I got in my account. And I would write in this black book every day. So, and I needed uniform. So I was like, I'm not going to start coaching people unless I'm wearing a uniform. Like I want to look pro, right? I want to stand out from the other coaches who are just wearing their Nike tops. So got all the uniform and stuff. And then basically it was when my website went live. I created the whole website myself. I kind of wish I still had like screenshots of it.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be somewhere.
There'll be somewhere. Yeah, there'll be somewhere. So I created the first website and then I just sat. It was like, I think I launched on a Sunday night, hit like I'm going live.
Yep.
I woke up on Monday morning, was like, okay, this could be the start of like my life, my career now. And I was living with my parents at the time. They were living on a boat. So I'm just like,
the story's getting more and more.
I'm just sitting on the boat this day, just like anxiously. It's kind of like I am now, hands under my legs, like legs shaking, being like, come on, please, someone just open. And I think I priced myself. I think my PT price was like $350 an hour.
Wow.
That was how I went low. I was like, I'm desperate, just someone. And I think, people were charging $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
So I went $350, like so cheap, you can't say no. And then my mobile rang. I think it was about 9 o'clock in the morning. It rang. It was from an unknown number, so it could be anyone. Answered it, and I remember it was Geraldine, and I ended up coaching Geraldine for 14 years. Only recently, she went and did some traveling during the pandemic, so we stopped. But 14 years I coached her. She was my very first client, and I remember she called and said, "Hi, is this Coastal Fitness?" And I was like, well, in my head, I was like, there's literally no one else in the team apart from me. I'm like, yep, you reached Coastal Fitness. Ed Haynes speaking. And then she was like, yeah, I just seen your website. And yeah, just, wanted to inquire about, personal training. And I was literally just like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I can't believe this is happening. She's like, would you be able to drive to my house? I'm like, yep. I didn't even ask where she lived. She could have lived in like China, mate, and then I would have had to drive like 2 hours. I was like, yep, no worries. Have you got a clubhouse? Yeah, all good. And then she's like, when can you start? I was like, tomorrow.
Yep.
Well, I can even start today. If you want today, I can come to you today. And I just remember like just walking in there, I had like all my outfit, all my kit, was just so excited. I mean, to be honest, like that like crazy level of childish excitement, like was with me for the first like 3 years of my business. Every time I get someone new, even still today, honestly, like I still get that like crazy excitement about us doing something new, or when every time a new person walks into Coastal Fitness for the very first time, or someone joins a process programming new for the very first time, I get like just this mad excitement where I'm like, this is so cool. This person's coming to us because they want, us to be a part of their journey. I just feel very proud always.
No, I think you're one of the first people to go to the door and welcome somebody in. I'm surprised you say you still have the butterflies. Oh, sorry, not butterflies, but you still have the sort of loosey-goosey feeling. I thought after 15 years that would have sort of subsided now and had transitioned into a different
Yeah.
feeling.
Nah, I still think it's pretty damn amazing. I think it's still pretty every time someone joins this gym, I'm just like, that's so cool.
Because I can understand if as somebody, a celebrity in our field, CrossFit, if they were to reach out or they know of us, I get excited about that. When people I see or if I've known and then I go, oh yeah, I work for Ed Haynes. Oh yeah, I know Ed Haynes. Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, I know Ant. And they know of the mission that we have. I feel very proud to be part of that.
That's
Even though I've
awesome.
got nothing to credit towards it.
No, of course you do.
No,
Man,
no,
you've got so much to credit
And in
towards
terms
it.
of it being going for 15 years and people knowing it before I even was on board with the company,
Yeah.
I think it's that legacy to be like going from being giddy over one client that you drove. I mean, where was she living in the end?
She was living in McDonald Road.
McDonald, where's
So
that?
that's in like mid-level somewhere.
Mid-levels.
I was,
Okay.
so I was living in the New Territory, so it's still like
Oh wow,
it was a 45-minute drive, but it's totally worth
you
it.
didn't take the boat.
No, the boat didn't really drive very well. It was more like a stationary block on the ocean.
Okay, so you traveled from New Territories,
Yeah.
MTR driving.
Driving. Had a car, yeah.
That's about 40 minutes.
Yeah,
50
45 minutes, yeah.
To do this versus now where you are on the floor. You're either up here working or doing video calls, or you're on the
Yeah.
floor doing PTs.
Yeah.
That chance somebody walks in and says, "Oh, I'm just looking for a call." You'd be like, "Right, front desk, off you go. I'm busy."
Yeah.
But you're still somebody that will take that moment to be like, to introduce them, say, "Hey, how are you?"
I
Get to know them.
just love finding out why they're here.
Yeah.
So I'll always go to them, introduce myself. And it's funny now as well, because you know that because I've removed myself a lot from like the face of the business, and when I was, it was just me for a long
Yep.
time, right? So sometimes I'll have like full blown 10-minute conversation with someone in the change room, and they have no idea who I am.
Yep.
Then are you a coach here? And I'm like, this is great. I'm like, yeah, I'm a coach here.
Yeah,
But
not
that's
that
funny.
important.
That's how much we've grown. And it's like you're just a no one, mate. But no, I'm always fascinated to know why did someone come here? Like, what's their story? Did someone tell them? Did you find out about us? Where did you hear about us? And that's just interest. And I'm just always like, so cool that you're here. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just get very excited about it.
No. I love that our mission. We're not just a gym. We're not just CrossFit. We are trying to promote something that's greater than that, and people see us for what we do, what we
Yeah.
have achieved. And even though we've got incredible athletes like Ant, like Tammy, we've got new coaches coming on, we've got affiliates around the world, but knowing the core that where the process comes from, Coastal, its beginning roots, and now hearing that first story,
Mm,
I can understand the giddiness still being there.
yeah.
I just would have thought that, like anything, the giddiness will change or adapt into something new. So signing a new affiliate or
That as well.
I mean that's huge.
Yeah.
That is to get I don't know what I can say without giving too much information away, but if a new gym shows interest in becoming part of the process,
Yeah.
like I'm like, man, we're just amazing.
Yes.
Like people they just want us. We're just so cool. Or even if we have people that are coming from China and not knowing, you know, their English is not fantastic. Our Chinese nearly invisible. But they're still seeing us for what we're doing and they want to be part of it. I think that just speaks so much louder than any reel that I could make or any, you know, like you say, Google reviews. I mean, it's word of mouth is how Asia works.
Yeah. But it's all important.
Of
You
course.
know, like all the work that you do is about the perception and
Of course.
you know knowing that it takes a lot for someone to make a purchase decision.
Yep.
Right, to sign up for a membership. It's a huge investment financially, time, energy, as well, breaking down all the barriers that most people have when they join a gym,
Yep.
especially Coastal Fitness. It's scary, it's intimidating, got to be fit to join, it's dangerous. You know, all those things. So for someone to actually step in and sign up, or even on the process programming to sign up to be one of our online subscribers, or for an affiliate to make that decision that they're gonna go all in with their whole business and you know partner with this other company, it's a massive decision. And you know, I just know that it takes a lot of positive engagements to get someone closer to that purchase decision.
Mhm.
So you may not see it right now, right? You might put out an amazing reel,
Mm-hmm.
right? That gets loads of airtime, loads of watches, loads of downloads, loads of shares, but no one signs up.
Yep.
And you're like, well, that was such a good reel. How did that not hit the jackpot? You put a second one out. Again, loads of engagement, loads of likes, loads of shares, loads of comments, nothing.
Yep.
And those are normally at that point that someone throws in the towel. They're like, it's not worth it. Got to
Yeah.
change it up. Got to do something different. But you don't know that those two reels just push someone one step closer to making that purchase.
Yep.
And then the second one pushes them a little bit closer. And if you just keep on giving them great engagements, and it might just be reels, it might be writing a message back to someone on social media, like
Yep.
having a conversation, whatever it might be, just, continually making positive deposits into someone's bank account. Eventually that's going to be one deposit enough that they're going to make that decision.
Yep.
And
And-
you just gotta keep on doing the good work, keep on saying the same thing, keep on believing in the things that you're doing. And every time you do it, you're going to push someone closer to it. And so, every person that just drops in or steps in, we just think that they've just, walked on the street and seen us and come in. But no,
Yeah.
they've probably been hearing about Coastal for 15 years. They probably, there's so many people that come in here that I've known from growing up here that I'm like, you've known about Coastal for 15 years. It's taken you 15 years to finally make the decision to step in here, right? And it was like they've seen all the good stuff, but they're also probably in a different position in their life where this is now the right thing for them.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's a funny little thing, but it's a cumulative team effort of just consistency and, knowing who we are and putting that message out there every day.
I can imagine somebody walking in, a mate of yours, 15 years, being like, where the hell have you been hiding?
Yeah.
You're just starting now. What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
No, I think that's, again, it ties into why I'm proud to be here, working for Coastal, working for the process. I could tell people this is what I work for. And I think the normal assumption, I say, I work in a gym. They go, are you a coach? And I go, do I look like a coach?
Well, you clearly do, mate. That's
No,
why
no.
they ask.
They're like, I think they look with confused faces as they're like, you a coach? Okay, no. But after explaining what my role is and what I do still feel proud that I could be part of that positive message that we put forward, or even just allowing somebody to start. I hope that somebody's heard my words, either the two other podcasts I've done, or even my willingness, my how do I say, openness, me just to want to post more on my own social media, be louder about my opinions. And I think you've definitely seen that a couple of times in the office. But I'm at that stage where I'm so proud to show off Coastal in the process and see who knows. And they go, you don't know Coastal? How long have you been in Hong Kong for, mate?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. You do Pure. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Pure, but you do Pure. Can't grow up.
Yeah, love it. Well, Al, it's an absolute joy having you here, and very, very grateful for everything you do for us. And
I appreciate that.
long may it continue, my friend.
I appreciate that.
I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up.
I have some questions first. We're not going to go into a big detail question, but
we've gone off the original intention, right? That's okay. That's back pocketed for another time.
why it works.
Yeah.
Ed, is there anything big coming up? Anything on the schedules that you might want to let people know?
Big coming up. Well, we have the CrossFit Open.
Yep.
It's about to happen, if not actually happening right now.
Mhm.
And we're running the Process Open Throwdowns. That's something just for Process Program subscribers and affiliates, where we do our own little leaderboards and
Mhm.
we highlight the successes of our community across the world by doing these update shows, and it's just a really good fun time. We have that coming up. We have our individual coaching course. Our very first cohort is underway right now, which is epic. Got 12 people on that, 12 coaches around the world who are working their way through the material. We're jumping on calls every few weeks. We've got 6 calls in total. They'll be wrapping it up in the next month, and then we'll be starting our next cohort in April. And that has just been, that's 3 years. 3 years of building that course, and now to be doing it and to see the impact that we're having, that's pretty damn special. What else have we got coming up? I mean, we're going to be sitting down about this podcast because
Yep.
we want to grow this thing and make it bigger and better, and
And shout out to Chris and Izzy.
Yeah, Chris and Izzy, who just work tirelessly behind the scenes to make this thing happen. But I think collectively we're going to be sitting down together to be like, okay, what have we learned? What can we do better? Within here at Coastal, we've got 2 new coaches join the team, Meg and Mark. I just got this really strong gut feeling they're going to be fantastic additions to the team. Personally working on how I can be a better manager and, sharing that knowledge with the other managers within our team. So as our collective, we're all going to level up and, just provide so much more and just be better.
Yep.
The affiliate program, we have, some new affiliates that are going to be joining us very soon, which is super exciting.
That's what I didn't want to say.
Yeah, we just have lots of great ideas to the affiliate program. We want to be running an affiliate summit at some point this year where we bring all the owners in.
Great.
Yeah, and I secretly just want to make it a golf day where we just
we're not doing that.
They're all getting into golf right now, which is very cool. All the affiliate owners are getting into golf, so that our next catch up will be on the course. You included, mate.
I'm just going to be shocking. Fuck you.
So we've got lots of things happening.
But I think the big stuff that's coming up soon is CrossFit Open.
Yeah.
Our Open.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking maybe we'll have to leave this for another podcast, or I'll talk to you about this afterwards, about swapping my goal of doing the Open for our Open instead.
Nice.
And being a bit more realistic, I think.
Yeah, I like that.
Because I know CK is going to beat me if I do the Open with him.
He wouldn't.
He would destroy.
But basically, those listening, CK is our accountant, and so we've been talking about matchups that's going to happen all Open. And
got the stride. He's just got the bar.
Yeah, it's the content guy against the numbers guy. That's going to be some showdown.
Oh, the numbers on that.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, I don't know. I just wanted to just let them know.
Yeah,
there's anything big coming up.
Yeah.
So yeah, those 3.
Yeah,
Open,
plenty.
Are Open, and well, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Any new information that might be poking its head up soon? Don't want to say what that is, but maybe not. We'll see.
Al, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.